All right, welcome back to Module 13 of the Speed Banking class. In this section, I'm going to be going over some of the most commonly asked questions that I get about the speed banking process, and I'm going to give you the answers to those questions. So let's dive in. Now, before we get too far into the content, of course, we've got to share our disclosure like we do in every module. I'm not a licensed attorney, accountant, financial advisor, real estate agent, real estate broker, or any other licensed individual. I just have a lot of knowledge around this because I've been doing it for a while. I've been doing it successfully. It's worked very well for my personal situation, and I believe it can work for everybody. So it's very important that you recognize that this is not specific advice or instruction or counsel that would apply to any specific individual. This is just general information, and it is intended to be educational. So with that said, let's dive in and let's tackle some of the questions that are most commonly asked and get the answers. So what do I do if I have no debt and want to use speed banking? Well, great news, because speed banking does two things. It gives you the ability to pay off debt quickly. It also gives you the ability to go out and acquire assets. So we talked about this heavily in Module 2 and Module 3. Great news is if you don't currently have debt, you can still use speed banking, and it's going to be awesome because it's going to give you a tool to go out and start acquiring assets at much higher velocity than you currently are. So, if you've already got all your debt paid off, you're halfway through the process. So Module 3 is going to apply to you more than Module 2 does, but it's still going to be useful for you. Next question: should you have more than one speed bank account? Yes, you should have more than one speed banking account, and the reason is, well, I guess let me back up. It depends. So I have more than one speed banking account. I have one for my personal finances, and then I have one for each of my businesses. So you should treat your businesses as independent entities, almost like children, right? You're going to have to run it for them, but they should have their own. So should you have more than one speed banking account? It depends. If you've got more than just your personal financial situation, if you got businesses that you're working on, then yes, you should have one for each business as well. I have less than 10. Next question is, I have less than 10 years left on my mortgage. Is it still worth converting to a line of credit? And the answer is, it depends. Do the math. That's the answer. Do the math. If you've got 10 years left on your mortgage, you're on the back end of that amortization. It's going to be subjective to your situation. A lot of factors go into that, but just do the math on it. Get a copy of your amortization schedule, see what's left and how much interest you're going to pay. And then run your speed banking numbers like we did in one of the previous modules, and look at it and see which one is going to cause you to pay it off faster and spend less in interest. Next question is, don't the banks lose out with the speed banking system? Absolutely. That's the point, right? They're not going to lose out completely. You're still going to be paying them interest. You're just going to be paying them a lot less interest. Obviously, they don't like that, but it's better than them losing your business completely. So, do the banks lose out? Yes, they're going to lose out at least in a little bit of or a lot of interest that they're going to collect from you, but that's going to be your gain. So that's okay, right? And you get to make that decision. So next question is, do I have to change what I'm currently doing? In most cases, yes. I would say speed banking is a lot less of a change than people anticipate it to be as they're watching this class and thinking, holy smokes, I'm going to have to change all this stuff. Well, really what it comes down to is just operating out of a line of credit instead of a checking account. So you're going to have to change that at the very least. But is it worth it? Absolutely. So yeah, there's going to be at least a little bit of a change in what you're currently doing. Maybe for some of you, it'll be a lot of change. Is it worth it? Well, do the math and figure that out, in your specific situation. Next question is, I already have a HELOC and or a line of credit. Do I need to get a new one? Well, answer to that one is it depends. So take a look at your line of credit, take a look at your HELOC, make sure it matches up with all of the things that we've talked about in the previous modules. You just want to make sure that it's something that you're going to be able to operate out of. So, see if your line of credit is one that you can attach to your checking account as overdraft, or see if they can give you a checkbook that attaches to your line of credit so that they can make that process even easier. In fact, if you want to go back and take a look at the questions at the end of the last module, Module 12, working with the bank, and compare that to the functions of your current lines of credit, that's going to answer your question. Next question is, I can't get a loan because I have bad credit. What can I do? Well, one option is a cash secured line of credit. I have seen people get very creative with this. I saw, in fact, one student he borrowed $10,000 from his dad for 30 seconds. And when he's telling me the story, he said, when I first talked to my dad, I asked him if I could borrow 10 grand for 30 seconds. He looked at me like I was crazy. But then once I explained it to him, basically what he did is he and his dad went down to the bank together. They bank at the same place. And his dad transferred over $10,000 into his savings. The bank took that, turned it in, froze it in the young man's savings account, opened up a $10,000 secured line of credit, and then the son transferred that entire $10,000 back to his dad. So he had a line of credit now. It was just completely maxed out. And that's okay. That's totally fine, because that gives you the ability to start doing this strategy, and really you start from the same place. You're not $10,000 further in debt because it's frozen there in your savings account. You are going to pay a little bit more interest because you're paying interest on that $10,000, but it's better than not being able to do this at all. So you absolutely, if you have bad credit, that's absolutely an option. Next question. What do I do if I'm at a negative cash flow position each month? Well, the first thing is run your speed banking numbers. We talked about running speed banking numbers in module, I'm looking for it here, in module 9, operating speed banking. So in module 9, we talked about how to run your numbers, how to calculate that. You may be at a negative cash flow now. If you run your numbers, it may and kind of do a simulation of velocity or a simulation of speed banking, it may put you in a positive cash flow just simply by changing those things around. If that's the case, then great, it'll work. If you run your speed banking numbers and you're still in a negative position, then the only answer to that is more income. So I would focus on some real estate activities first to get your income up, and then apply the principles of speed banking in order to pay off your debt faster. But either way, cash flow, remember cash flow is a two-sided equation. It's expenses and income. So you can either decrease your expenses by decreasing the amount of interest and debt payments we're making through the principles we've talked about in this class, or you can increase your income by going out and doing real estate. Either way, both of those things work to answer that question. Next question. How would this system work for me if I get paid 100% commission or get paid on an irregularity? The answer is probably better than the traditional method, because 100% commission. Before I got into real estate, my career was in sales. I sold websites. I worked at the Apple store selling iPhones. I worked for a company selling windows and insulation door to door. I sold printing. I sold all sorts of stuff. And so I'm used to that 100% commission thing. And there were good months when things were great and we had all of our bills were paid and we had a lot of money left over. And then there were months where things weren't so great, where it was kind of a rough month. We didn't have as many sales and it was tough to even make ends meet and get the payments paid. So with speed banking, that provides you with a little bit of a buffer there in the line of credit, and you can kind of tweak some things so that if you're in a rough month on 100% commission, you can still float it. If you're having a really good month, it pays that down even more and helps you prep for those bad months. Or if you get paid on an irregularity. My wife Maylee worked a job for a while selling solar door to door, and she only worked 4 months out of the year. This system would work great for those types of individuals because it provides that buffer. You make your whole year's worth of income during those 4 months, and it pushes the debt balance down and opens up leverage in the line that can then be used for the rest of the year. And the nice thing is with a line of credit, especially one that has a cash withdrawal option, even if there's a minimum payment due on months where you have absolutely zero income, you can go down to the bank, swipe the line of credit in the ATM, pull out slightly over the amount for the minimum payment, hand it to the teller and say, there's my minimum payment. Takes care of it, right? So speed banking really gives you that flexibility that you need in order to start taking advantage of the system, but works great for people on 100% commission or people that get paid on an irregularity. So next question is, what do I do when the speed banking tool you have chosen has a 5 or 10 year term on it? Well, most banks, and this is a question you need to ask. So in the last section, we talked about the questions you need to ask the bank. You can just make sure that you're able to go back in and basically keep that going by reapplying for it. All they want to do is they want to see after 5 or 10 years that you're still credit worthy. So bring your information back in. They'll go through the application process again, and then they'll extend the term. In most cases, that works. And I would say preparation is far better than being in the situation and having to put out the fire. Prepare ahead of time. Talk to the bank. Make sure that that's something that you can do after that 5 or 10 year term is up. Next question. Would I ever choose to get a regular loan after learning this strategy? The answer is it depends. Sometimes that's strategic, right? After I had started applying the speed banking principle, I applied a different principle that I learned where I could use real estate to pay for a car that I wanted. So I went out and got a loan on the car, used my line of credit to acquire an asset that would make the payment on that car, and then my tenants paid for my car. And then I paid down the debt inside the line of credit. So, it just depends on the strategies you're using. My suggestion is get well versed enough in this, watch the class over and over again, do some outside research on it. Combine that with some of your other strategies that you're using and that you're doing with real estate investing and business ownership, and make those decisions on a case-by-case basis. But it comes down to always do the math. Figure out if you've got an idea that you want to get creative with how to acquire something, and if it makes more sense to have a loan and have your speed banking or your real estate service that loan than it does just to use speed banking directly for that acquisition, then do it. But always run the math to make sure which strategy is better. I would say as a rule, just use speed banking. But if you want to get creative and create your own exception, just make sure the math works better in your favor if you're going to execute that exception. So next question, what happens in the event the bank freezes the line of credit or cancels your credit card? Well, it just turns back into a loan. So you're in no different situation than you are now doing your finances through the traditional method. So, and this is a fear that a lot of people have, but they need to realize it's just going to put you back in the exact same situation you're in. And let's say that happens 10 years down the road. You're 10 years further along in your debt pay down using speed banking than you would have been otherwise. So not a big deal. You just go back to the traditional method. This could happen in the event of a major financial crisis, like the 2008 type thing. I know of some people that froze their lines of credit and canceled their credit card. It just converts into a loan that you make payments on just like normal. And I only saw it on people that were leveraged above the value of their HELOC, or above the value of their home. Their HELOC had a $120,000 balance and their home was only worth $100,000. So if you've only got a $50,000 balance and your home is worth $100,000, it's less likely to happen to you. Not impossible, but less likely to happen to you. But at the end of the day, the bank's reputation, because they're businesses, their reputation is important. They're not going to tell you that you're going to have a line of credit and then freeze it and cancel it on you. That just doesn't happen on the regular. It could happen in an extraordinary circumstance. Not saying it couldn't, definitely can, but it's something that's very unlikely to happen. However, not the end of the world. You just go back to the traditional way of doing things for a little while until they open it back up and you can reapply for a HELOC. And then shouldn't I just refinance to a 10 or 15 year mortgage? I would say in most cases, no. I mean, we did a lot of math throughout these modules to show you the difference between making double payments and, shorter term mortgages and loans and whatnot. I would say in most cases, no. But if you want to know for sure and for yourself in your personal situation, again, the answer is do the math. Run it all the way out. Look at the amortization table on the 10 and 15 year mortgage. Calculate how much interest total you're going to be spending, and then run the speed banking version and calculate how much interest total you're going to be spending, as well as the lengths of time that it's going to take to pay off. Compare those things to make sure that you're making the best decision for you. The whole point of this that I hope you get out of it is do the math. You have to know what's best for you, and if you just rely on the banks, they're going to tell you what's best for them. So don't just make assumptions. Don't just assume that a shorter term mortgage is going to be better than speed banking, because in my experience, in most cases, it's not. However, it could be. So again, do the math. That's going to protect you in every case. And that wraps up this module. Questions and answers. This has been module 13. Thank you guys so much for hanging out during this speed banking class. please go use this stuff, apply it in your lives. It's an incredible strategy, and I hope you can use it to affect huge change in your life towards becoming wealthy, towards building that wealth that you want, and having the time freedom and the financial freedom that you've always imagined. So we will see you in the next class.